Lyra had always been curious. In the quiet city of Veyara, she spent her days exploring the outskirts where the buildings ended and the wild lands began. The city's people were brilliant and calm, their lives ruled by order and knowledge. Yet Lyra often felt restless. The walls of her home, filled with technology and perfect schedules, seemed to close in around her. She longed to see something new, something unpredictable, something that might challenge her understanding of the world. On that bright morning, the sky was painted with soft orange clouds. Lyra walked along the cliffs that overlooked the valley below. The wind carried strange scents from the forests and mountains beyond. She enjoyed the quiet, the gentle hum of the city far behind her, and the feeling of freedom the wilderness gave. Her eyes scanned the horizon, expecting nothing unusual when a flash of light caught her attention. It was fast, blinding, and strange. A streak of fire cut through the sky, followed by a distant boom that made the ground tremble slightly. Lyra froze, her heart racing. Nothing from Veyara had ever fallen from the sky like that. Her mind raced with possibilities: meteor, energy weapon, rogue ship. She could hardly breathe as she watched the fiery object descend toward the forested valley. Instinct and curiosity pushed her forward. She ran along the cliffside path, her long, agile legs carrying her over roots and rocks. By the time she reached a viewpoint overlooking the crash site, the object had vanished behind the trees, leaving only smoke curling into the sky. Lyra's mind struggled to make sense of what she had seen. Nothing should survive a fall like that. Nothing from the skies could. Then she saw it. Amid the smoke and shattered trees, a figure moved. It was small, human-shaped, unlike any creature she had seen before. Lyra blinked in disbelief. The figure rose from the ground, staggering but alive. Its skin was pale, and it wore a strange suit of cloth and metal. Its limbs were thin, but it carried itself with determination. Lyra's scientific mind screamed in confusion. Survival after such a crash was impossible for a being like that. Yet here it was, standing on its own, brushing off debris, looking around with sharp, intelligent eyes. Lyra crouched behind a fallen log, her heart pounding. She felt a mix of fear and fascination. Could this really be a human? Could a fragile creature like that withstand a fall that would destroy any Veyaran being? She had read the records, seen the simulations, studied the anatomy of distant species. None of it explained what she was seeing. She tilted her head, watching carefully as the human began to examine the wreckage. The human's movements were precise. It lifted fragments of the fallen ship, inspecting them with hands that were both delicate and strong. Lyra felt a growing admiration. There was intelligence in every motion, a creativity in the way it handled tools and materials. She had never seen a species adapt so quickly in such extreme conditions. The human bent down, scooping up some liquid from a nearby stream, testing it carefully before drinking. Lyra's mind raced. No other species could survive like this. Humans were extraordinary. She had to know more. She wanted to understand how this was possible. For hours, she observed, hiding in the shadows, keeping her distance. The human worked tirelessly, using fallen branches and scraps of metal to create temporary shelters and simple tools. It moved with purpose, never stopping even when the sun began to set. Lyra marveled at the ingenuity. It was as if the human was rewriting the rules of survival with every action. As night fell, the human built a small fire. The light danced across its face, highlighting determination and focus that seemed almost alien. Lyra had to remind herself that this creature, so small and fragile, was somehow defying everything she knew. She felt a stirring of something unexpected, respect, awe, a hint of inspiration. Perhaps humans were not weak. Perhaps they were something more. Lyra stayed until the stars appeared, listening to the crackle of the fire and the soft sounds of the forest. She could see the human moving with quiet confidence, testing materials and preparing a makeshift shelter. Every action was efficient, precise, yet filled with creativity. Lyra's mind buzzed with questions. How could such a being survive here on this alien planet with nothing familiar around it? How could it think so quickly, act so boldly, and adapt to dangers she had only read about? The next morning, Lyra returned to the crash site. She watched from a distance as the human inspected more debris, taking notes and making adjustments with incredible focus. It was not just surviving, it was planning, experimenting, learning. Every day brought something new. Lyra realized that this human was not just strong or lucky, it was clever, brave, and unyielding. Its mind was a weapon, sharper than anything the aliens had ever developed. She could not contain her curiosity any longer. Lyra stepped closer, trying to stay hidden, but the crunch of leaves underfoot betrayed her presence. The human paused, turning sharply toward the sound. Lyra froze, heart racing. She expected fear or anger or perhaps even attack, but instead the human's eyes, bright, intelligent, and unafraid, met hers. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Lyra had never seen a creature so confident in its presence, so fearless in the face of the unknown. The human studied her as well, tilting its head slightly, as if analyzing her. Lyra felt a strange mixture of fear and admiration. She wanted to step back, to run, but her legs refused. She wanted to speak, to ask questions, but her voice was caught in her throat. And then, slowly, she realized something astonishing. This human was not just surviving, it was thriving in a way she had never imagined. Its mind worked differently, its body endured differently, its spirit was unbreakable. Lyra took a deep breath and stepped out from her hiding place. The human did not flinch. It simply observed, waiting. Lyra felt a thrill of excitement. She had discovered something remarkable, something that could change everything she thought she knew about life, about intelligence, about survival. She wanted to understand, to learn, to see if humans were truly as extraordinary as they seemed. For hours, Lyra watched and approached cautiously. She offered small gestures of peace, showing she meant no harm. The human, in turn, responded with curiosity, not hostility. They were two beings from entirely different worlds, studying each other with a mix of caution and fascination. Lyra felt a spark of connection, a recognition that intelligence and courage could exist beyond her own species. By the end of the day, Lyra returned to her home with her mind racing. She could barely sleep, thinking about the human, about its resilience, its ingenuity, its unyielding spirit. She realized that humans were not just another species, they were something exceptional, something that could survive, adapt, and perhaps even thrive where others could not. Her thoughts were interrupted by a new feeling, anticipation. She knew she would return. She needed to see more, to learn more, to understand this impossible creature. Lyra could not deny it. The human had captured her imagination, challenged her knowledge, and inspired her in ways no Veyron had ever done. And deep down, she wondered what it would be like to learn from it, to see the limits of human capability firsthand. The stars shone above as she looked out toward the distant forest. Somewhere there a human lived, endured, and thrived, and Lyra, full of curiosity and wonder, could hardly wait to meet it again. Lyra woke before sunrise, her mind still racing from the day before. The image of the human, alive and thriving after the crash, refused to leave her thoughts. She had spent hours studying its movements, its intelligence, and its courage, and each observation made her more certain that humans were extraordinary. But she was also cautious. The human was unknown, unpredictable, and possibly dangerous. Yet, despite the warning signs her instincts shouted, curiosity pulled her forward. By the time the first light touched the city's edges, Lyra had packed a small bag with supplies, some food, a water bottle, and a few basic tools she might need in the forest. She slipped quietly out of her home, careful not to disturb her parents or alert the city authorities. The thrill of the unknown made her heart beat faster. She was venturing where no Veyron had gone before, into the wild, to observe something she might not fully understand. The forest was still and silent as she approached the crash site. Birds called softly in the trees, and the wind whispered among the leaves. Smoke from the wreckage had cleared overnight, leaving only scattered debris and broken trees as evidence of the human's arrival. And there it was, moving carefully among the wreckage, the human working with focus and purpose. Lyra crouched behind a fallen branch, watching in awe. The human, whom she had started to call Alex in her mind, had set up a small workspace. Broken metal panels were arranged neatly, scraps of wires twisted together, and crude tools fashioned from fallen branches and fragments of the ship. Alex moved with purpose, testing materials, arranging items, and making observations with a precision that made Lyra's mind whirl. It was not just survival. Alex was learning, adapting, and experimenting. Every movement had intent. Every action was a solution to a problem the forest or the wreckage had presented. Lyra had read about intelligence, creativity, and ingenuity, but seeing it in action was completely different. She had never encountered a being that could think, plan, and solve problems so efficiently under extreme conditions. For hours, Lyra watched. She noted how Alex could create small tools from nothing, purify water using simple techniques, and even find edible plants without hesitation. Lyra's mind raced with questions. How could a human survive in an alien environment with no prior knowledge? How could it remain calm, alert, and effective under stress? She tried to calculate the possibilities in her head, but quickly realized that the human was doing what her species could not even dream of doing. As the day progressed, Alex moved farther into the forest to gather resources. Lyra followed cautiously, keeping her distance. She hid behind trees and rocks, careful not to make a sound. She noticed that Alex was not only observing the environment but also keeping track of patterns, where predators might appear, where the water was clean, where the wind carried certain scents. Lyra had studied survival strategies in theory, but Alex was putting them into practice in a way that made her own knowledge seem limited. At one point, Alex paused by a small stream. Lyra watched as he knelt, using a piece of broken metal to dig into the soil. Carefully, he filtered water through leaves and cloth, then drank it slowly, checking for taste and clarity. Lyra's breath caught. The attention to detail, the care for safety, and the ability to improvise, these were traits Veyrans admired, yet even they would have been challenged to perform so effectively under such conditions. As afternoon turned into evening, Lyra noticed something else: Alex's endurance. The human did not tire easily. Its movements remained steady, precise, and efficient. Lyra, who was fast and agile by nature, felt exhaustion creeping into her legs and arms, yet Alex continued without pause. It seemed impossible, but there it was, proof that humans were resilient beyond expectation. Curiosity began to outweigh caution. Lyra wanted to see more, to understand how Alex could do what no Veyran could. She took a careful step closer, breaking a small twig underfoot. Alex paused, ears alert, and turned toward the sound. Lyra froze, holding her breath. But Alex did not move toward her aggressively. Instead, he studied her from a distance, tilting his head as if trying to understand who or what she was. Lyra realized that humans did not just survive, they analyzed. Every movement, every glance, every decision was informed by thought and observation. Alex was aware of her presence but did not panic. That moment struck Lyra with a mix of fear and admiration. Here was a being that could perceive danger, assess it, and respond with calm intelligence. It was unlike anything she had ever encountered. Over the next several days, Lyra returned to the crash site multiple times. She stayed hidden, learning more about Alex's methods. He built more complex tools, created better shelters, and even began experimenting with communication techniques. Lyra was fascinated by how quickly he adapted to the alien environment. She noted that Alex did not just follow instinct, but made choices based on reasoning, imagination, and foresight. Lyra began keeping a small journal, recording observations and sketches. She wanted to understand patterns, motivations, and problem-solving methods. Each entry left her more amazed. Alex could take the simplest resources, a broken branch, a piece of metal, a leaf, and turn them into something functional and useful. Lyra had never seen such creativity under pressure. The human was not just surviving, it was thriving, learning, and mastering the environment. One day, Lyra ventured closer than ever before. She hid behind a large boulder, her eyes fixed on Alex. He was working on a simple mechanism to draw water from a deeper part of the stream. He used a piece of metal as a lever and a hollowed branch as a container. Lyra could hardly believe what she was seeing. The human's understanding of physics, engineering, and resourcefulness was far beyond what she had expected. She wanted to speak, to introduce herself, but fear kept her silent. She worried that any sudden movement might scare Alex or cause a dangerous misunderstanding. Yet the desire to learn more, to see this extraordinary human in action up close, was stronger than her fear. She crept forward slowly, taking care to step on soft moss instead of dry leaves, watching as Alex worked methodically. Finally, as the sun began to set, Lyra could no longer contain herself. She stepped out from behind the rock, her hands raised slightly in a gesture of peace. "I mean no harm," she called softly, her voice trembling with excitement. Alex froze for a moment, then slowly turned. His eyes, sharp, alert, and intelligent, met hers. He did not speak immediately, but there was no hostility in his gaze. Instead, he studied her with curiosity, as though trying to understand who she was and why she had come. Lyra felt a shiver of anticipation. She had made contact. She had revealed herself to a human. "What are you?" Alex asked finally, his voice calm but measured. His accent was strange to her ears, but the meaning was clear. Lyra blinked, realizing that this was the first time they had exchanged words, the first step toward communication. I am Lyra," she said carefully. "I live in the city nearby. I have been watching you." Her words stumbled, but she managed to convey her meaning. "I want to learn, I want to understand." How are you surviving?" They used reasoning, creativity, and courage to solve problems. Every action she had observed was not random, but deliberate, purposeful, and intelligent. For the next few hours, they communicated in small ways. Lyra used gestures, drawings, and simple words. Alex responded with patience, repeating and clarifying until she understood. She asked questions about his tools, his methods, his reasons. Each answer revealed more of human capability, more of a mind that could thrive in conditions others would find impossible. As night fell, they sat by the fire Alex had built, a symbol of human ingenuity and survival. Lyra could not stop watching him, studying the careful way he maintained the flame, organized his tools, and prepared for the night. She felt a deep admiration mixed with awe. Here was a creature that defied expectations, challenged assumptions, and inspired wonder. Lyra realized something important. Humans were extraordinary not because of strength or speed, but because of intelligence, adaptability, and courage. Every action Alex took reflected a mind that refused to accept limits, that could overcome danger with creativity and determination. She had never seen anything like it, and she knew she would never forget it. Before leaving for the night, Lyra made a promise to herself. She would return. She would learn more. She would see what humans could do, how far they could push themselves, and perhaps one day understand the full extent of their capabilities. Humans were more than resilient, they were remarkable. And Lyra, full of curiosity and awe, could hardly wait to witness more. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and leaves. Lyra hurried toward the forest edge, her heart beating with excitement. She had spent the previous nights thinking about Alex and the lessons she had already learned from observing him. Now she felt ready to take the next step. Curiosity had grown into a determination to understand more, to see what a human could truly accomplish when faced with a challenging world. As she approached the crash site, she saw Alex working with careful concentration. He had gathered more resources overnight, creating small, functional tools from the wreckage and natural materials. Lyra paused, watching from a distance, studying how he combined raw materials in ways that seemed both simple and ingenious. She realized she had underestimated the human's ability to solve problems under pressure. Every movement was intentional, every decision calculated. Taking a deep breath, Lyra stepped closer, leaving behind the cover of the trees. Alex noticed immediately, but instead of showing fear or aggression, he raised his hands slightly, signaling calm. Lyra responded with the same gesture. They stood for a moment, silently assessing each other. The forest around them was alive with sounds, birds chirping, leaves rustling, and the distant flow of a stream, but they were focused only on each other. I want to help, Lyra said finally, her voice steady though her heart raced. I want to work with you, I want to learn. This was more than observation now, it was cooperation, a chance to learn directly from a human's mind and spirit. Lyra stepped closer, careful not to crowd him. She watched as Alex handed her a small tool, fashioned from a branch and a piece of metal. We can work together, he said, demonstrating how to use it to dig small channels in the soil to collect water. Lyra mimicked his actions, clumsy at first, but learning quickly. She was amazed by how patient he was, correcting her gently and encouraging her to think, not just follow instructions. Hours passed as they worked side by side. Lyra began to notice patterns in Alex's methods. He always thought several steps ahead, considering not only immediate problems but what might happen next. He adjusted his tools to make them more effective, rearranged his workspace for efficiency, and always tested new ideas with careful observation. Lyra felt her respect for humans deepen. This was not just survival, it was creativity, intelligence, and resilience combined into a single, extraordinary force. By midday, they had created a small, secure camp. Alex had used broken pieces of the ship to build walls that could shield them from wind and small predators. He had even designed a simple water filtration system using sand, leaves, and cloth. Lyra watched in awe, realizing that she had never seen any species, even Vaerans, solve problems with such practical brilliance under extreme conditions. I never imagined a being could do this, Lyra admitted quietly, sitting beside him on a log. It is incredible. You make survival look easy, but I know it is not. Lyra felt a spark of inspiration. The human's resilience was not just physical, it was mental, emotional, and creative. He adapted to every challenge, finding solutions where others would see only obstacles. As they rested, Lyra noticed something else. Alex did not just focus on immediate survival, he considered the environment, the terrain, and the possibilities around him. He mapped the area in his mind, anticipating dangers and preparing for situations that Lyra had not even considered. She realized that this kind of thinking was rare, even among her own people. Humans, she thought, had an extraordinary capacity to analyze, plan, and act under pressure. The afternoon passed with more lessons. Alex demonstrated how to use simple chemistry to purify water, how to create traps for small game without harming them unnecessarily, and how to improvise tools from scraps. Lyra tried each technique, often fumbling at first, but learning quickly under Alex's guidance. She felt her mind opening to new ways of thinking. Humans approached problems differently than Vaerans. They relied on creativity, intuition, and observation as much as logic and theory. As the sun began to lower in the sky, Lyra suggested they explore beyond the immediate area. "There may be other resources nearby," she said. "We could find more water, maybe better materials for shelter." Alex agreed, and together they moved deeper into the forest. Lyra led the way cautiously, showing Alex paths she had discovered on her own during her secret visits. He observed carefully, asking questions and adjusting his plans based on her guidance. They reached a small clearing near a stream, where the ground was soft and fertile. Alex examined the area, noting where sunlight fell, where water pooled, and where shelter could be built. He began to dig small channels to redirect water and improve soil drainage, all while Lyra watched and helped. She marveled at his efficiency and foresight. Humans, she realized, had an uncanny ability to predict outcomes, to adapt, and to thrive in new environments. While working, they noticed signs of other creatures nearby, small animals that moved cautiously among the trees. Lyra explained which were harmless and which could be dangerous. Alex listened carefully, integrating the information into his plans. Later, when a small predator approached, Alex used simple, non-lethal techniques to guide it away from the camp. Lyra was impressed. He combined intelligence with empathy, ensuring that survival did not require unnecessary harm. As evening fell, they returned to their camp, exhausted but satisfied. Lyra sat beside Alex, watching the fire flicker. The warmth of the flames contrasted with the cool forest air, creating a peaceful moment. She reflected on the day, realizing how much she had learned and how much more there was to discover. Alex had taught her not just practical skills, but a new way of thinking, a new respect for adaptability, courage, and resilience. I do not understand how you do all this," Lyra admitted softly. "You are so different, yet so capable. It is inspiring." Humans had a way of turning limitations into advantages, of finding solutions where others would see only problems. The night grew darker, and the forest settled into quiet. Lyra lay on a bed of soft leaves near the fire, listening to the distant sounds of the forest. She felt a deep admiration for Alex, but also a growing sense of hope. If humans could survive and adapt in such an alien world, perhaps they could do anything. Her imagination soared with possibilities. Before sleep claimed her, Lyra made a quiet promise to herself. She would stay and learn, not just from observation, but through cooperation. She would discover the limits of human ingenuity, the depth of their courage, and the power of their mind. She knew this was only the beginning. Humans were extraordinary, and she wanted to witness everything they could accomplish. The following days passed in a rhythm of learning and cooperation. Lyra and Alex worked together to improve the camp, explore the surrounding areas, and develop strategies for survival. Alex taught Lyra how to identify edible plants, purify water efficiently, and create tools from natural materials. Lyra shared her knowledge of the local environment, alerting Alex to hidden dangers and resources he might not notice. Together, they became a formidable team, combining human creativity and adaptability with alien knowledge and agility. Lyra found herself inspired not only by Alex's intelligence but also by his attitude. He never gave up, never panicked, and always sought solutions. Even when faced with unexpected problems, a fallen tree blocking a path, a sudden storm, or a small predator, he adapted quickly and calmly. Lyra realized that humans were not just survivors, they were innovators, thinkers, and problem solvers. One afternoon, as they rested by the stream, Lyra looked at Alex with admiration. I think I understand now," she said. "Humans, you are amazing. You survive not because you are strong, but because you think, you try, and you never stop." "But it works," Lyra nodded, feeling a deep respect for this creature who had shown her a new way to see the world. By the end of the week, their partnership had grown stronger. Lyra and Alex could communicate with gestures and simple words, share ideas, and work together seamlessly. They had built a camp that was safe and functional, and they had explored much of the nearby forest, discovering resources and learning to navigate dangers. Lyra felt proud, not just of what they had accomplished, but of what she had learned from the human beside her. As night fell once more, Lyra sat by the fire, gazing at the stars. She realized that this human had not only survived against impossible odds, but had also inspired her to think beyond the limits she had once believed were fixed. Humans, she understood now, were extraordinary. They were not bound by weakness or fear. They were clever, resilient, and brave. And Lyra, filled with admiration and curiosity, knew that this was only the beginning. Together, she and Alex would explore, learn, and face whatever challenges the world could throw at them. She felt a spark of excitement and hope, knowing that with humans, even the impossible could be achieved. The morning fog hung low over the forest, giving everything a mysterious, silver glow. Lyra moved quietly beside Alex, her eyes scanning the trees and the uneven ground. For days they had worked together, exploring the forest, gathering resources, and building their camp. But now something felt different. There was a tension in the air, a sense that they were being watched. Lyra's instincts, honed by years of navigating the wild lands, prickled with caution. Alex noticed it too. He stopped, crouching behind a low rock, and pointed toward the shadows between the trees. Lyra followed his gaze and saw movement, small, careful, almost invisible to an untrained eye. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. These were not ordinary forest creatures. They moved with purpose and intelligence. Lyra whispered, "They are scouts, aliens from the city." They moved cautiously, using the trees and fallen logs as cover, trying to avoid detection. Lyra led the way, showing Alex the safest paths, while he observed the movements of the alien scouts, predicting where they might appear next. Their teamwork was seamless, her knowledge of the environment combined with his problem-solving and foresight. Together, they were stronger than either alone. As they advanced, one of the scouts stepped into an open area, immediately drawing attention. Lyra's pulse quickened, but Alex reacted calmly. He picked up a small rock and threw it into the opposite direction, creating a sound that drew the scout away. The maneuver worked perfectly, allowing them to slip past unnoticed. Lyra stared at him in amazement. Humans, she realized again, had a way of turning the impossible into possible with clever thinking and timing. They continued deeper into the forest, reaching a narrow canyon where the terrain became challenging. Rocks and roots jutted out, making every step dangerous. Alex moved with careful precision, using tools to secure footholds and create simple handholds. Lyra followed closely, amazed at his ingenuity. He could turn even the most treacherous paths into manageable routes. She realized that humans thrived not just on strength but on intelligence and creativity. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the canyon. A branch had snapped under the weight of an alien scout who had been following them. Lyra froze, expecting the worst, but Alex acted quickly. He used a broken branch to create a temporary barrier, redirecting the scout away from their path. Then he led Lyra down a hidden route, barely wide enough for them to squeeze through. Every action was calculated, every decision precise. Lyra could hardly believe what she was witnessing. Humans were not just adaptable, they were fearless under pressure, able to think several steps ahead. After hours of careful navigation, they reached a hidden clearing with a small stream and dense undergrowth. Alex signaled Lyra to rest while he examined the area. He tested the water, checked for edible plants, and assessed possible threats. Lyra watched, amazed at his methodical approach. Every movement, every decision was a lesson in observation, problem-solving, and survival. She felt a deep respect for this human who could endure, adapt, and thrive in ways she had never imagined. As evening approached, they worked together to fortify their temporary shelter. Alex used fallen branches and rocks to create simple traps and barriers, while Lyra helped gather resources and scout the surrounding area. They moved with quiet efficiency, their actions coordinated without words. Lyra realized that humans had a unique combination of creativity, intelligence, and courage that allowed them to face challenges others could not. Night fell and the forest came alive with sounds. Lyra and Alex sat by a small fire, planning their next steps. "We cannot stay here forever," Lyra said softly. "They will search, and sooner or later they will find us." Over the next few days, their situation grew more challenging. Alien patrols increased, forcing them to move frequently and avoid open areas. Each day tested their ability to work together, combining Lyra's knowledge of the forest with Alex's resourcefulness and quick thinking. They created temporary shelters, traps for small creatures, and signals to communicate silently. Lyra marveled at how Alex could improvise solutions to problems she had never even imagined. One afternoon, as they crossed a rocky ridge, they encountered a larger patrol than usual. Lyra froze, fear gripping her chest, but Alex remained calm. He quickly assessed the terrain and spotted a narrow crevice in the rocks. "This way," he whispered, leading her carefully. Lyra followed, amazed at his ability to turn a dangerous situation into a manageable one. The patrol passed without noticing them, and Lyra felt a surge of admiration. Humans, she realized, had a resilience and intelligence that could overcome even overwhelming odds. As they continued, Alex taught Lyra techniques for moving quietly, observing without being seen, and thinking ahead. He showed her how to use natural materials to create simple tools and weapons, not for harm, but for protection and problem-solving. Lyra absorbed every lesson eagerly, realizing that humans combined courage with ingenuity in ways that were truly extraordinary. One evening, they discovered an abandoned cave. It was small, but it offered shelter from the patrols and the elements. Together, they cleared the entrance, built a small fire pit, and arranged their supplies. Lyra watched Alex work with fascination. He moved efficiently, using scraps of metal, stones, and wood to improve their shelter. Every action was deliberate, practical, and creative. Lyra realized that humans did not just survive, they thrived, turning challenges into opportunities. As night fell, they sat together in the cave, the fire casting flickering shadows on the walls. Lyra felt a sense of awe and admiration. She had learned so much from Alex, but she also realized there was still more to understand. Humans were remarkable not because of strength or speed, but because of their minds, their ability to think, adapt, and create solutions where none seemed possible. Suddenly, a sound outside the cave caught their attention. Leaves rustled and small branches cracked under weight. Lyra's heart raced, but Alex remained calm. He motioned for her to stay low and quietly moved toward the entrance. Peering out, he assessed the situation. A patrol was nearby, scanning the area with careful precision. Alex whispered instructions to Lyra, guiding her to move silently to a hidden spot while he distracted the patrol. Using a combination of clever tricks and quick thinking, Alex led the patrol away from the cave. Lyra watched in amazement as he used natural elements to create diversions, rolling stones, snapping branches, and subtle shadows. The patrol moved past, unaware of their presence. Lyra felt a surge of respect and wonder. Humans, she realized, could face danger calmly, think creatively, and turn impossible situations into victories. After the patrol passed, they returned to the cave. Lyra looked at Alex with admiration. You are incredible," she whispered. "I have never seen anyone survive like this." "It is not me, it is humans. We survive because we adapt, because we think, because we try, that is all." She felt inspired, eager to learn more and determined to apply what she had learned to future challenges. Over the next several days, Lyra and Alex continued to explore the forest, improve their shelters, and develop strategies to avoid patrols. Each day tested their abilities, strengthened their partnership, and deepened Lyra's admiration for humans. She realized that their cooperation was more than survival. It was a demonstration of what humans could achieve when they combined intelligence, creativity, and courage. One evening, as they rested by the fire, Lyra reflected on everything she had witnessed. She thought of the first time she saw Alex after the crash, his determination and his resourcefulness. She realized that humans were more than just survivors. They were innovators, thinkers, and problem solvers. They could face impossible odds and turn them into opportunities. Lyra felt a deep sense of hope. If humans could survive and thrive in such an alien environment, perhaps they could achieve even greater things. She was inspired, not only by Alex's abilities, but by the human spirit itself, a spirit that could endure, adapt, and overcome any challenge. As night fell over the forest, Lyra and Alex sat together, planning their next move. They would continue to explore, learn, and face the dangers of the world with intelligence and courage. Lyra knew that with Alex by her side, they could overcome anything. She had witnessed the extraordinary capabilities of humans firsthand, and she felt a profound sense of admiration and wonder. For the first time, Lyra truly understood what it meant to be human. It was not just strength or endurance. It was intelligence, creativity, adaptability, and courage. And she knew that as long as humans could think, try, and persist, nothing was impossible. The forest was quiet as dawn broke, painting the trees in shades of gold and green. Lyra and Alex moved cautiously through the undergrowth, their senses alert for any sign of danger. After days of evading patrols and navigating the forest, they had grown more confident, yet today felt different. The air was tense, heavy with anticipation, as if the forest itself held its breath. Lyra's instincts told her that a decisive moment was approaching. "Something is coming," she whispered, her eyes scanning the shadows. Alex nodded, his expression calm yet focused. "We are ready," he replied. His voice carried a quiet certainty that inspired Lyra. Humans, she thought, were remarkable not because they were fearless, but because they could remain calm and think clearly even when facing danger. That combination of intelligence and courage was what made them extraordinary. As they moved deeper into a narrow canyon, the sound of movement ahead grew louder. Alien patrols, more numerous than any they had faced before, were advancing toward their position. Lyra froze, but Alex remained composed. He crouched behind a boulder, quickly assessing the terrain and the positions of the patrols. Every detail was noted: the spacing of the guards, the direction of their movement, the natural features they might use for cover. "We can outsmart them," Alex said quietly. "Stay close and follow my lead." Lyra felt a surge of admiration. Humans, she realized, could turn danger into an opportunity through observation, planning, and creativity. But the challenge was far from over. The patrols regrouped ahead, blocking the path to the forest exit. Lyra's instincts screamed that retreat was impossible. Alex crouched beside her, scanning the area. "We must create a distraction," he whispered. "Then move quickly while they investigate." Humans, she realized again, could improvise solutions under pressure in ways no other species could match. As the patrols approached, Alex signaled to Lyra. She moved carefully, placing herself behind a large tree while he threw one of the improvised devices into the underbrush. A loud crash echoed through the canyon, and the patrols turned immediately toward the sound. Alex and Lyra seized the opportunity, sprinting along a narrow path that wound around rocks and trees out of sight. Lyra felt a thrill of exhilaration. Humans did not just survive, they created chances for success even in impossible situations. They reached a cliff edge overlooking the patrols below. From this vantage point, Lyra could see the city in the distance, its towers gleaming in the early sunlight. They had made it farther than she had ever imagined possible, but Alex's eyes were focused on the canyon. "We need to move," he said. "They will regroup and search higher ground." Alex had noticed it on a previous exploration, but had not revealed it until now. The entrance was nearly invisible, covered by rocks and thick vegetation. Together, they moved inside, taking a moment to catch their breath. Lyra marveled at his foresight. Humans could plan ahead, anticipate danger, and use their environment to their advantage in ways that were brilliant and effective. Inside the cave, Alex examined the maps he had sketched in his mind. "We need a plan," he said. "We cannot just hide. We must find a way to stop them or outmaneuver them completely." Now, combined with Alex's ingenuity, she realized they could turn the forest itself into a tool for their strategy. "We can use the terrain," she suggested. "The cliffs, the narrow paths, the rivers, they cannot follow us everywhere. We use it to our advantage." Every step was a careful blend of human ingenuity and Lyra's knowledge of the alien environment. As evening approached, they made their move. Using the prepared paths and diversions, they lured the patrols into a narrow canyon where movement was restricted. The alarms sounded as the patrols entered the area, but Alex and Lyra were already in position, hidden on higher ground. From this vantage point, they could see every move the patrols made. Lyra felt a surge of excitement. Humans, she realized, had the ability to turn danger into an opportunity with strategy, intelligence, and creativity. The patrols tried to navigate the canyon, but the false trails and obstacles created by Alex forced them to slow down and confuse them. Alex whispered instructions to Lyra, guiding her movements carefully. They moved quickly and silently, using the patrols' confusion to their advantage. Lyra felt a growing admiration, not just for Alex, but for humans in general. They were capable of thinking ahead, planning carefully, and executing strategies that no other species could manage under such pressure. As night fell, the final part of their plan came into action. They led the patrols to a narrow bridge over a deep chasm. Using carefully timed rocks and branches, Alex created a controlled diversion that caused the patrols to retreat, thinking the bridge was unstable. Lyra held her breath, watching in awe. The human mind, she realized, was capable of turning fear and uncertainty into a tactical advantage. With the patrols distracted, Alex and Lyra moved quickly across the bridge and into a hidden canyon on the other side. They paused only when they were sure the patrols had lost sight of them. Lyra felt a rush of exhilaration and pride. Together, they had overcome an impossible challenge through intelligence, creativity, and courage. Humans, she realized, did not just survive, they thrived under pressure, turning every obstacle into an opportunity. As they rested, Lyra looked at Alex with admiration. I never imagined a being could think, plan, and act like this, she said softly. It is incredible. You make impossible situations possible. Their intelligence, creativity, and courage allowed them to overcome challenges that others would see as impossible. She felt inspired, eager to learn more, and determined to apply what she had learned to future challenges. The following days were a mixture of exploration, strategy, and preparation. Lyra and Alex moved through the forest, creating new paths, gathering resources, and improving their shelters. They avoided patrols with skill and efficiency, using every trick and strategy they had learned. Lyra felt a sense of empowerment. Humans, she realized, had a remarkable ability to face danger calmly, think ahead, and create solutions where none seemed possible. One afternoon, as they reached a high cliff overlooking the alien city, Lyra felt a sense of awe. She had seen the humans survive, adapt, and overcome impossible odds. She had seen ingenuity, courage, and intelligence at work in ways she could never have imagined. And she realized that humans were more than just survivors. They were innovators, thinkers, and problem solvers. Alex looked at the city as well, then turned to Lyra. "We have done well," he said, "but this is not the end. There is more to learn, more to do, more challenges to face. That is what humans do. We do not stop. We adapt. We try. We succeed." They could survive impossible situations, adapt to unknown environments, and turn challenges into opportunities. Their intelligence, creativity, and courage were unmatched. She realized that humans were not just remarkable. They were extraordinary, capable of achieving greatness in ways that no other species could. As night fell over the forest, Lyra and Alex sat together by a small fire, gazing at the stars. They had survived the patrols, navigated dangerous terrain, and overcome impossible odds. Lyra felt a profound sense of hope and excitement. Humans, she realized, were capable of anything they set their minds to. Their intelligence, determination, and courage made them unstoppable in the face of challenges. For the first time, Lyra truly understood the human spirit. It was not just strength or endurance. It was intelligence, creativity, adaptability, and courage. She knew that as long as humans could think, try, and persist, nothing was impossible. And she felt privileged to witness it firsthand, learning from a being who embodied everything extraordinary about humanity. As the fire crackled and the night deepened, Lyra made a silent promise. She would share what she had learned with her people. She would show them the extraordinary abilities of humans and the power of intelligence, creativity, and courage. The human mind, she realized, was a force that could overcome any obstacle. And she knew that with humans, the impossible was always possible. Together, Lyra and Alex rested, knowing that the challenges of the future were waiting, but also knowing that with intelligence, ingenuity, and courage, they could face anything. Humanity had proven itself extraordinary once again, and Lyra would never forget the lessons she had learned. The stars shone brightly over the forest, and in that quiet night, a human and an alien shared a moment of understanding. Lyra realized that humans were not just survivors. They were remarkable, inspiring, and capable of achieving greatness beyond imagination. And she knew that this was only the beginning of a story that would forever change her world. The alien girl watched in shock. Was this even possible for a human?